This story could never be reduced to just baseball. Baseball is merely a premise for a far more grandiose story. This is a story about the importance of economic empowerment. This is a story about an unprecedented level of leadership. Ultimately, this is the story of the social advancement of America as Jackie Robinson is handpicked from the great Kansas City Monarchs to break baseball's 6-decade-long self-imposed color barrier. Well, welcome to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, the world's only museum dedicated to preserving and celebrating the rich history of African American baseball. For those who wonder why a Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is located here in Kansas City at historic 18th and Vine, it is because Kansas City is the birthplace of the Negro Leagues. The leagues were formed just literally right around the corner from where the museum currently operates. That is where Andrew Ruth Foster led a contingent of 8 independent black baseball team owners into a meeting here in Kansas City in 1920. And out of that meeting came the birth of the Negro National League, the first successful organized black baseball league. In 1990, we started this project as an effort to actually revitalize an area that had died. Like a lot of urban areas, people had turned their backs on 18th and Vine, and it had become a dilapidated area. It was crime infested, and so we built this museum not only for the important role that we have in preserving and celebrating and educating people about this once forgotten chapter of baseball and Americana, but also to be the catalyst that would spark redevelopment and revitalize interest in what had been such a proud, prominent community.
One of the things that I wanted us to do was to get much more involved in the community. So I started seeking out, where is the right place for Hy-Vee to be here in Kansas City. And then I read about the origins of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and I started just digging into it. The museum told the story of the Negro Leagues, but what was really special about it for us was that Buck O'Neil, who actually played in the Negro Leagues, was one of the first black coach in Major League Baseball. Buck lived in Kansas City and was a member of the Kansas City Monarchs. They invited us down to tour the museum. We got there, and Buck was there himself. And Buck decided he would give us the tour. To hear it and see the museum and that era, that period of time through his eyes was just eye-opening.
We essentially set up the museum experience as having our guests enter into an old ballpark. So as you walk into the stadium and you go through the turnstiles, the first thing you see is the field. Here is our field of legends. And as you peer through a chicken wire backstop, you can see these incredible life-size statues of Negro League greats. And they are anchored in position as if they were playing a game. They represent 10 of the first group of Negro Leaguers to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. And so what we hope as our guests enter is that when they peer through that chicken wire and see this display, that it invokes that desire that, oh man, I can't wait to get out on the field and take my pictures next to the statues. But here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, we segregate you from the field. We wanted our visitors, particularly our younger audience, to at least remotely experience what segregation was like. So from most vantage points in the museum, you can see the field, but you can't get to it. And so the only way that you are allowed to take the field here, you have to earn that right. And you do so by learning their story. And so by the time you've basically endured everything that they had to endure just to play baseball in this country, then the very last thing that happens is now you can take the field. The Negro Leagues Baseball Museum would not be where it is today had it not been for the generosity and the support of Hy-Vee. Through the course of 2 decades, we've done some amazing, amazing projects that have helped raise visibility for this museum, that has raised tremendous amount of resource for this museum, and the partnership is as strong today as it was 20 years ago. And for Hy-Vee to still be fully invested in this organization some 2 decades later speaks to the value of that organization. And I think it also serves as a reminder for people of how special this museum project really is.
Bob and I met and we had the opportunity to talk about how Hy-Vee might be able to help provide vaccines to an underserved part of Kansas City. And so we actually wanted to use the backdrop of the museum, one, to get people into the building who maybe have never been here before, to be able to create the awareness of what the museum's all about and all the good that they're trying to do. And it's been a great thing. And so since then, we've partnered with the museum through our one-step program to be able to say, hey, Hy-Vee is ready to take one step forward to make this partnership stronger. It's about doing good in the community and partnering with those who are trying to do good, trying to get the word out of what happened in the past and try to prevent things in the future from happening. And so it's really about social reform, social injustice, and trying to do better as we move forward as a society.
Sometimes you set out to just do things and you find a different motive in it. I think the motive for me and for us now is that, one, it is just to do the right thing, but it is a story worth telling, and it's a cause worth championing. And so that's, for me, what's really special about it. I think the fact that there's conversation about social injustice still today is just because it's always been here and it's still going on. And it just takes an individual to shift how you think about things to be able to make a difference. Maybe you can't fix it all, but you can fix, one thing.
The story of the Negro Leagues could have only happened in America. And so, yes, it is anchored in the ugliness of American segregation, a horrible chapter in this country's history. Oh, but out of segregation rose this wonderful story of triumph and conquest. And it's all based on one small, simple principle. You won't let me play with you, then I'll just create a league of my own. There's something very American about that spirit. And so while America was trying to prevent them from sharing in the joys of her so-called national pastime, it was the American spirit that allowed them to persevere and prevail. You see, they dared to dream of playing baseball. They had no idea they were making history. They didn't care about making history. They just wanted to play ball. But the pride, the passion, the perseverance, the determination, the courage that they demonstrated in the face of adversity. Again, our story is not about the adversity, but rather what they were able to do to overcome the adversity. And that's the real story.
At Hy-Vee, we know we can't solve all the world's problems, but we can do something, and so can you. All it takes is one step, and when we take that step together, we have the power to positively affect our communities and the world around us. When you purchase products with the Hy-Vee One-Step logo, you know proceeds are helping people get access to nutritious food and safe drinking water, as well as caring for our environment. Learn more about this groundbreaking program and look for One Step when you shop Hy-Vee.